What's wrong, mijo?
Donating to a pet's medical care can keep families together. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
It's hard to clean. Cutting trees
in Michigan.
is one thing.
Michigan. Okay, all right.
Yeah, that one is.
Oh, good, have fun.
She's ready. Ready to go? Right, Dan?
I was gonna ask about yours.
Yeah, he's waving at me as well. Let's call this park board meeting for August 9th to order. September, yeah. I got 9th in my mind, 9/9/25. There you go, so September, thank you. So call the order. Well, item 2, roll call.
McDaniel,
Here?
Ruadi,
Here.
Herniman,
Present.
Knutson. Here. Miller,
Present.
Weiss,
Here.
and Frisch is absent. Okay.
Very good. Welcome back, Nico.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. So item 3 is the approval of minutes. There is an editorial correction that are in the minutes. On it stated for the third item for the meeting minutes that the approval was from back in March and April, but it was actually for the 10th. So that will be corrected on it, so just for a clarification of that. So looking for approval of minutes that was in the packet.
Oh, I'll move to approve them.
Andy, you move. Second?
Aye.
Yeah, thank you.
Actually, shoot. Since he was not at the meeting. Matt
Okay,
wasn't-
so you-
I
we have to
apologize. I
abstain
meant
for
to
that.
mention that before the meeting and I didn't.
Yes.
Do you
since
you need
were-
a second?
Yes.
Yes, we
I
do.
will second.
Oh, okay. Do we have any comments, questions? Call for a vote. All in favor, state by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We'll go with an abstention for you, Matt, okay? Since you weren't present, but that, future, definitely. Public appearances, we have an opportunity for anybody who would like to present to the park board, talk with any topics, anything on the agenda or not on the agenda. Wouldn't necessarily be any actions, but we can answer questions. But seeing that there's nobody present, so we don't have any public appearances. So item 5, reports from the village staff. 5A, Director of Public Works report.
Yeah, so there's not much of an update with JC. They still have a couple small punch list items to complete. We will be having a soft opening of the other soccer field for Fall Fury. It will only be open for that tournament, and then it will be closed down again and open in the spring. And then we have started the batting cage project. So we're hoping to have that wrapped up if weather cooperates by the end of next week.
And I will jump in with an update on Oak Street. That project is progressing. We are about a week or two away from finishing underground work, at which point we'll be full-time on road coring, getting ready for concrete, all of that. We do have an agreement with the contractor that the road will be open and free of obstructions between Nygaard and Park Street for Fall Fury. So we are getting a change order that enters that into the contract officially. So that will be available to get people in and out, particularly those from out of town. Past that, it's likely looking like that project will continue into October, but it will not be hard closed for the remainder of the time. We'll do our best to keep it open where possible to make sure that we don't inconvenience residents and sports groups any more than we have to.
Any comments or questions from the park board? Hearing none, thank you much for working through those challenges. That certainly are with weather and contracting. For 5B, Directive Community Development Reports. First one is item I, upcoming public input sessions for Gary Dish Park.
So you may remember a few months ago, we expanded the scope of Gary Dish Park to include some irrigation work, as well as some more filling, grading for the playground area. So we've met with Rutler. We're working on a schedule through this fall, which will include a couple check-ins, obviously, with the park board as the design progresses. But one of the important first steps of this is neighborhood input. We all know this is a neighborhood. It's been waiting for this for a really long time. Already started over the last, honestly, year or two, hearing from neighbors. They're ready to they have some thoughts to share and are excited about this. So we're going to be hosting a neighborhood input meeting. You all are welcome to attend. It'll be in the community room, so it'll be informal. There won't be you all set up at a dais or anything like that, but short presentation by folks from Rutler and just kind of updating them on the design, where we're at, schedule, what they could expect potentially during construction, kind of timeline for when this would all be open if things go well, but largely focused on the playground area, their feedback on equipment, colors, as well as types, age group, as well as just different features. We met with, there's a playground manufacturer that we worked with for both Highlands and Netherwood Park and JC Community Park called Burke. That's the actual playground itself. Lee Recreation is the basically playground contractor, and they provide Burke products. So both of those are Wisconsin companies. It's all playground equipment made in Wisconsin. So we've been really happy with that. And just to kind of keep the process moving along quickly, we're just gonna have one kind of playground contractor work on this, and then that'll be specified in the bid for a particular pieces of equipment. So that'll be Tuesday, September 23rd. Leanne's working on a big pile of letters I saw on your desk. They're ready to go to the post office now. So neighbors will be getting those hopefully later this week. And that meeting will be 6:30 to 8. So yeah, again, short presentation, and then it'll be more of a kind of open house, wander around session. We'll have some conceptual playground options on the wall, kind of printed out on big like plotter paper, and have sticky dots for people. Everyone loves stickers to put on what do you like, what do you not like, what's missing. Have some opportunity for kind of open feedback, and then obviously have staff and consultants kind of circulate throughout so people can make sure that their comments are heard, and then take a look at what feedback we received and bring that back to the design and see what we need to kind of put together. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. There's options from ages 2 to 5, and then kind of 5 to 12, and then a mix of both. So it'll be helpful to hear from the neighborhood what's important here. I think, striking a balance between things we already have that we know are popular, and also maybe some pieces of equipment that we don't have, maybe an opportunity to do something a little different here. Other, again, pieces of equipment we don't have in the village so far. So just wanted to make you all aware of that meeting and let you know you're welcome to attend.
Did you say 6:30?
6:30 to 8. Yeah, it's on page 9 of the packet, Lauren, if you want to scroll down there. But 6:30 to 8. A short presentation. The beginning will probably be 15 minutes or so, and then the rest of the time will just be for meandering around the room and providing feedback, and we'll stick around for questions or anything until everyone has stopped through. So it's the only neighborhood meeting we're planning at this point. We'll just invite them in the neighborhood letter, invited them to park board, let them know when our meetings are, and that to just keep their eyes peeled for those agendas and packets throughout the fall. They're welcome to attend and see the park design as it progresses and provide any feedback at park board.
When you talk neighborhood, how far did you reach out for the mailers?
So I did a little bit further than we typically do for like public hearing notices for planning commission. That's typically only 300 feet. I did a 1/4 mile radius for this one. So it reached all the phases of the Autumn Ridge neighborhood, plus some of Autumn Woods, some folks on like Fox Run Court across the road. Did not include any of the town residents, just village residents. But.
Okay. Questions from the park board? Welcome you to join in with that. Thank you for putting that together. Community input is always valuable. Try to do that as much as possible. Moving on to 5C, the Recreation and Programming Coordination Report.
All right, just a quick reminder that this Saturday evening, we will be having our outdoor movie night at JC Community Park. We'll be showing Wicked. So 5 o'clock is when, well, the grounds are open anytime, but 5 o'clock is when the fun starts, concessions will open. Friends of the Orchestra and band advocates are going to be doing concessions as a fundraiser for them. And then we'll have fun little temporary tattoos with the characters, a little photo opportunity. So we encourage everybody to come and sing along and wear your pink, wear your green, wear a little of both, whichever you'd like. The movie will start at 6. So we hope to see you then. It's a long one. If you haven't seen it, it is a longer one, but it's worth it. It's a wonderful movie. And then just kind of while we're on the topic of events, I, like many others, were saddened to hear that there will be no 2026 Summerfest. I'm not on the chamber board, so I can't really speak too much about it, but I am seeing on social media a lot of outcry for, well, now what are the community events going to be? And I just wanted to kind of send a reminder that, yes, the events I plan are not on that large of a scale, but there will be community events such as the outdoor movie night, and we're adding a couple fun new ones next year. So hopefully that will help fill the void.
Very good. Any questions, comments from the park board? Thank you, Leanne. It's been a busy summer.
Yes, thank you.
I can imagine it's been full days, lots of emails overall. So item 6, unfinished business, things that we had talked about. 6A, discussion and possible recommendation to the village board regarding the draft of the 2026-2035 Parks and Trails Capital Improvement Plan. For you, Lauren?
Yep. So there is a memo in the packet that kind of summarizes most of the changes made. So I apologize for those that have read through it if I'm going to be a little bit redundant here. But quickly summarizing the major changes that have been made through the 5 or 6 revisions to the CIP since the initial version that you guys saw. As we kind of discussed last time, the Kaiser Fireman's Park, pretty much all of those improvements have been removed at this point from the 10-year horizon and we'll say replaced with a master planning effort that'll kind of provide some guidance probably more than 10 years out on how we want to proceed with that park, what kind of amenities the community wants to see there. So a big change and a lot of larger projects taken out of that top line. Another major change is that the JC Community Park West redevelopment lighting phase has been removed from this horizon. That was a large project. It was, I think, about $1.8 million that was kind of hanging out there. And there are a number of pressing major facilities projects that are coming up for the village, particularly in that 2027, 2028 horizon where it was sitting. That would be the senior center, and that is going to take up a lot of debt capacity, as well as just a lot of kind of public engagement. And then we have potentially a new fire station or a fire station renovation coming probably 3 to 5 years after that. And so due to the amount of investment of the $7 million that have been put into J.C. Park recently, we did make that choice to take that out for now to try to clear up some of that space for these other projects and other parks that haven't gotten that level of investment. So, as I mentioned, the major addition is that master plan for Kaiser Fireman's Park, just trying to provide us some ideas and a blueprint for how to address that park, hopefully after this decade that we are planning for right now. A number of parks got moved around, rescheduled, some of them, to try to clear up that 27, 28 timeframe. Some of them because the project scope was very similar to another park and it was relatively small, and so we wanted to hopefully get better prices if you have a couple of small paving projects that you're doing versus just one, and then 2 years later you're doing another one. So kind of just readjusted to try to balance out that kind of work. And then a couple of projects were rescoped to better match the 2023 to 2028 outdoor recreation plan. So we had gotten a little ambitious in proposing some of the pieces in those parks, and so we did try to shave those down a little bit to just match what is in that plan. So those are the major changes. As far as timeline, I believe that the goal is to approve the 2026 to 2035 overall CIP next Monday at the board meeting. So any kind of input, feedback, etc., before we do reach that would be very welcome.
Park Board, Lynn.
I don't really have any comments on this, but I did want to just clarify something that Lauren's explaining, because I think specifically for the public, it can get a little concerning. Our CIP is a 10-year plan that we reevaluate every year. So when we talk about taking out the lighting for JC Community Park or adjusting the Kaiser project idea list, we're simply doing that for this year, and we will come back to these things next year. We're not locking that away for 10 years. So I think it's important to understand that financial strains change year to year. We could see some changes in those big building projects, but we want to assume what we have right now. And so taking them out or removals, yes, are removing them for right now, but they can always be added back as quickly as next year if that consideration is needed.
That's a super good clarification, Lynn. Thank you.
I just have one comment.
Yes.
I guess I'm just disappointed to see the conservation aspect of it be pushed out, because, I mean, we did go through the capstone project, which is good, which has actually happened faster than I thought it would happen. But by pushing it out, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking it's going to get pushed out, and then it'll get pushed out, kind of like how a lot of the projects have, since the discussion that started a couple of years ago.
That's great feedback. I can lend or shed a little bit of light on that one in particular. The goal was to, at least in this first year here, provide staff a little bit of breathing room to start trying to pilot some controlled burning out there instead of jumping right into doing the kind of detailed design plan and planning for those 4 phases. We're hoping to basically sketch out an area kind of in that north central portion of the park. And work with the fire department to kind of try out this controlled burning, see how it works on the ground, see how our staff like it, see how long it takes, and then see what actually comes back the next year. So we wanted to kind of give ourselves a little bit of room there, and then based on what we're seeing, move forward with that real rigorous, planning effort the year after, and then kind of start rolling into those projects, particularly as that first project is the major restoration, a kind of habitat renewal, wetland and prairie part of the whole plan. So that was some of the thinking there.
Sure, yeah, I mean, I guess too, the silver lining of this is with, adopting the master plan, I mean, we know what this property is going to be. It's not gonna be used for something else. So I mean, it's just, like I said, I guess I'm just disappointed, seeing it get delayed, but I also understand the reasons for it. I mean, again, sometimes you don't know what you have until you tear it down to see what's there.
Another thing that we did discuss is particularly that conservation portion of it, that phase 1, but potentially the phases 2 and 3 could be really good fits for the Knowles Nelson grant. And right now we have, as does the state, a lot of us have a lot of pieces that have to fall back into place to have that program up and going and really reliable. So this also gives us some space to try to get our ducks in a row, make sure that we're doing things like joining Green Tier Legacy so that we can get all the points that we can. Basically, all those little pieces that'll help elevate our application and hopefully allow that Knowles Nelson fight to shake out and be fully funded so that we can apply for that.
Yeah, great, thanks. The only other question, or not question, comment I had with moving the lights for J.C. Community Park out, I guess to Lincoln, I mean, we'll probably revisit it next year because when other people find out that it's not happening, I mean, those people will be loud about it. But then again, I don't know if it's a real big high priority for the rest of the residents that don't use the park.
Yeah.
Other park?
I do have one question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So with the controlled burning pilot, I hope to take this the right way, but why are we doing a pilot on controlled burning when it's been used for as long as I can remember, right? So what are we trying to prove? And it is really just a question.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. What it really is a pilot for our team and our staff. We don't, as a public works department, we have not historically done a ton of it. And so what we're trying to get a sense of is, can we integrate this as part of our usual duties? How much time does it take? How much area can we cover? Should we be getting staff certified to be burn masters, or should we be working with the fire department or outside groups? We're just not very familiar with it. So before we commit to let's burn the park and let the chips fall where they may, we want to be very cautious, especially anytime we're dealing with literal fire, and make sure that we understand what we're getting ourselves into and that we can manage this going forward.
Thank you.
That was one of the recommendations from the capstone, is that you could just do some basic things, and some of that is just getting rid of some of the underbrush and the burn to take place. So that's a great evolution to get it started and do something without lots of fun. So do like the fact that we are looking at where we're getting high public usage. So we are looking at parks, and so some of the activity that we've gotten now that we have better registration through reservations of parks themselves, get an idea of the use, and finding out where those are being used. I think that's a great stepping stone for us to do that. So we're going to keep that aware so that we know where people are using the parks and where those improvements are most valuable. We have some nice parks that just people don't even know about. They don't even know where they're at. So as much as we can. So we're looking for a recommendation from the park board is that correct?
How have we done this in the past?
Yeah, I think we should have a park board recommendation on this parks section of the CIP.
So looking for a motion to approve this revised plan for the CIP plan for parks.
Anyway, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll make that motion.
And he's making a motion. Do we have a second?
Aye.
Matt will make the second. What other discussion do we have in regards to this motion to the village board?
I'm just happy to see a bunch of money being directed towards the parks.
That is absolutely true.
Agreed.
Okay, no other comments? We'll call for a vote. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? So moved. Very good. Thank you for presenting that and putting all of that information together. That's a large portion of that. So moving on to item 7, new business. Discussion and a possible recommendation to the village board for the 2026 fee schedule in regards to athletic facility reservations. So in the packet, there was some additional information regards to that.
Sure. So now that summer is done, it's time to focus on 2026, as crazy as that sounds. So tonight, I think I was just kind of hoping to start the discussion, get some input, and then hopefully come back in October with some specific ideas to put forward to you. So this is broken down into kind of 3 areas. So one is just like our basic athletic field rental rate. For as it pertains to the sports organizations, like not residents, not like just things like youth baseball, soccer, that sort of thing. Right now, they've been doing the $2 an hour. Their invoices are about to go out, so if you're listening, be prepared. And in 2026, I think it's a good idea to look at possibly increasing that or thinking about the way that we structure it. So now that we have Eric, our fields are amazing. So before, when it was $2 an hour, they were still relying on parent volunteers, and we tried to kind of recoup our losses, but also give them a little break because they were still doing a bunch of work. But now it's transitioning to that not really being the case. So I'm looking to you guys whether we keep it similar and just do like a flat hourly rate, possibly increase that rate, or what I'm finding when I investigate other municipalities, I think one of the better examples is DeForest with their Quick Trip Athletic Complex, which is pretty similar to our JC Community Park. They structure it where So they call it sanctioned organizations. So what they call their youth sports organizations, they pay $50 a year, and that's unlimited practices. But then they pay $40 per 1 hour game, and then $50 a day per tournament. So, and that's obviously per area as well. So do we maybe want to go to something of that nature rather than just an hourly rate? And we'll start there.
I'm against raising the cost because I think that it puts a lot of strain on the sports organizations. And we're going to get, like, even with this $2 an hour, we're not getting that much revenue to make it seemingly worth it. Like, we were almost going to pay for the software that was, like, what, $8,000? And we were getting, like, $20,000 out of it. So it's already, like, almost half of that is going, like, it doesn't seem like we're making that much. And it seems like we're greatly hindering the sports organizations.
Just to clarify on the software, where we ended up with that, I'm not sure if you would remember, but our website has the functionality to do the reservations, so we actually didn't have to do an additional cost just for a park reservation software.
I remember
so,
that. I'm just saying, like, the actual amount that we're getting doesn't seem like a huge amount to justify, like, pulling down the sports organization.
I hear what
so
you're
much.
saying.
Other comments, Andy?
I'm going to come in on the opposite side of that.
I thought you might.
Yeah, I think $2 an hour is a steal. I think it's, I mean, at that point, why charge them anything? I know this was the first year we charged them for that. I guess I would like to see like a tiered type of payment or a fee structure. If you're at JC Community Park, at any of the Ball Diamonds or the multi-purpose fields or Highlands and Otherwood or something where Eric and his staff are, you know, putting in a lot of time there where they're kind of responsible for it, I would love to see those fees increase. You know, maybe we don't go to a $40 for a 1 hour game, which I think that would be a lot harder to swallow. If you go, maybe this year you go $5 an hour and with the note that it's gonna go to $10 an hour next year, and then we revisit, or, you know, the year after that and revisit that. Some of the stuff where you got these flat fields and neighborhood parks, you know, like Norm Champion or High Meadows or something like that, where it's not really a designated space, we're just kind of using
Right.
the park space there, I would say keep that, you know, at a lower rate, you know, $2 an hour or whatever you want to do with that. I mean, that's gonna cater more towards soccer and not the stick and ball sports, you know,
That's a good
so I mean,
idea.
there's, I'm sure there'll be some pushback on that, but then again, look at the quality of the facility that you're getting
Exactly.
when you pay that rate.
Mm-hmm.
I know at one point, Eric and his staff were gonna start painting all the lines at Highlands and Etherwood and, JC Community Park, and they found out, you know, that it wasn't gonna be cost effective for you guys to do it, so soccer is still painting those lines all over the village. So I really don't care if they feel like they're getting preferential treatment, because they're putting in a lot more work as an organization to get these fields ready to be played. You know, and then when Gary Dish Park, you know, comes online, I mean, that's gonna be, that flat area is gonna be irrigated and pretty much more primarily for, you know, this multi-use aspect again, you know, when that comes online, put that at the higher rate as the other kind of more manicured parks.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Other comments? Nico?
The other question that we have to answer is whether, well, what we're going to do about the reservation. Because I remember last year that we just made an exception for soccer because they reserved like 15,000 hours or whatever.
That's coming next. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Never mind.
Should we move on to the topic of soccer?
does anyone have other comments about the fees?
Oh, go ahead.
What about the sanctions? Could you describe how they do the sanction organization in DeForest?
So
I know I
they
read that.
have an actual application that you have to fill out and get approved in order to become, oops, excuse me, a sanctioned organization.
Okay, so they'd have some kind of,
Exactly, like a tax ID number, you know, number of people that are enrolled in this club, that sort of thing.
so that way they kind of evaluate those organizations a little differently.
Exactly.
And then they can accommodate that.
And how much money they make.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's how they, yeah.
So that does kind of change it. So that like that concept of understanding the organizations that will be using the facilities a little bit does help out with a little direction. Okay?
I just have one more thing, just because I'm reading it up there, you know, with the Friends of the Oregon pickleball deal, you know, and,
That's part 3.
oh, that's part 2, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll wait then.
Okay,
Let's
oh
move to
yeah,
the
oh,
next
don't
one.
worry.
Thank you.
I have a quick
Certainly.
comment about
Yeah.
the fields. I agree with Andy. I like the idea of assessing the parks and the features that they have, and sort of, you know, if you want something more elevated, you pay more money.
Right.
That's kind of how the market works. But I also want to always keep in mind what it takes for you, Leanne, to manage those things. If we start to create different levels and we have a sanctions process, a sanction group process, there are things that I think are good returns on investment there, and then there are things that I don't want you to get too clerical on in getting those things. So I think if a sanctions list helps you so that you have good contact information, you have clear, you know, a clear list of who we've identified as being those sanctioned groups, I think that's a great tool. If it's not necessarily worth the amount of time it takes you, I would want that back as feedback on the park board, because we wouldn't know that. And so anytime that you run into an idea or we suggest something to you that at the end of the day is actually going to cause more work for you, that feedback would be really helpful.
Sounds good. Thank you, Lynn.
Nico?
One more thing that I'd like to add is I think it might be a good idea to look at how DeForest sports teams handle like the higher cost. Like what does it, like how much would a family have to pay there in order to like join a sports organization to get their kids in sports, and look at how they handle it and look at how much the price will rise for normal families before we jump the gun on assigning a price.
Well, it wasn't that way. I'm originally from DeForest, but
Nice,
they have,
perfect.
what they do is they have the sanctions, cause some, well, like, if we're picking on soccer tonight, I mean, soccer brings a lot of money. And they have a nice bankroll, where your, other organizations don't have that. So they look at who brings in the money, and it does already cover, they have also, when you're sanctioned, you have money for people who can't afford to pay, and they have money for that,
So it's based off the income of the company or
of the
or of
organization.
the organization?
The sanctioned
Yes.
organization.
Okay.
I think a sanctioned organization also, some will do a better job in helping out. It's like having a good customer, a customer that does really work out well for you, have a good relationship overall. And so therefore, it's a little easy to do business and get some feedback as well, because that can add to staff as you have to follow up and certain things aren't being done. So inefficiencies also add to the staff time, which is some component that often can't be measured. It's like, no, you have to answer the phone calls. You end up having to answer the emails and a lot more that comes into it. So we'll go on to the next portion of what you want to do.
All right, so part 2, this leads to, now we're getting into the tricky areas. So part 2 is Oregon Soccer Club. Last year they received a bill for all of their hours booked. I believe the sum was somewhere in the $25,000 range. And everybody else's, I believe, was less than $2,000. So it was quite a big difference. So, they came to us and said, this is just not sustainable going forward. And Park Board said, okay, this year you can pay for just what you use. So then when we squared up at the end of the year, it was a pretty big difference between what they had booked and what they were using. And it was to the tune of about 9,000 hours, which to me says that there's a happy medium, you know what I mean, where they can book, a plan A and a plan B, but yet not necessarily have every field from 8 to 8 every day, Sunday through Saturday. So I just wanted to get your feedback on, if are we going to give them the same deal this year? Is this, you know what I mean?
Can they figure out that they don't have to book that many hours?
I don't know. When I book it, sometimes it's like, on the 4th of July, like realistically, are you going to have practices that day? Do you need to book it? Like trim Memorial Day. Secondly, because they book so many facilities, Eric and the crew don't know which one is going to be used. So sometimes it's ready to go and soccer's happy. Other times they're like, well, these other fields you requested are ready, and we don't know. So it's hard for them to schedule, or it's hard for them to think, okay, where do we prioritize? Are they going to be here or are they going to be there, and just kind of guess. So I think it would help them as well to have something more concrete.
And I can explain if you want to, just for those that weren't on the park board then, just the justification that soccer gave for why they do the overbooking. Do you want me to talk about that, or?
Yes.
Okay, so just for your information, in case you weren't watching park board like last April or whatever. So in soccer's case, I believe their justification was largely just due to kind of the different conditions and weather conditions on the fields. They wanted to have flexibility, so if there was a lot of water on a field or something like that, this is not playable. Maybe we prefer to play over here. It's, maybe near the elementary schools or something like that. But like, for example, the Kaiser Park field that floods easily, it's in a low area. So they might pivot to, okay, we want to have that flexibility. Now we're going to be over at High Meadows Park or whatever it might be. Just because of the size of their organization and all the coaches and things, they wanted to be able to try to keep, practice and game times as consistent as possible. So not have the facility be, I guess, the factor to have to cancel or a practice or a game. But, okay, we're going to pivot. We also have this space available. And I think that, to their credit too, there's not a lot of residents that are reserving, their neighborhood park just so they can go out and play kickball with their family. Usually they see if it's not being used, they're just out there. So that was kind of the justification, was more, we want to have that flexibility, and also we don't want to overly cause wear and tear on one specific field. We want to kind of rotate. I think there's definitely fields just based on their location or facilities or size that soccer tends to prefer to schedule and have those practices and games on. But yeah, it's kind of been a back and forth, and I think if there was an easy solution, we would have found it years ago. So, and they're actually, I don't know if I was gonna say, I don't think Eric's out here, but yeah, they're often at park board and just kind of, I think they want to work with us and compromise.
Absolutely.
And, they paid for what they used last year per the agreement. I think this year we didn't really talk about it earlier in the year, and it's kind of been sort of the same, status quo, but the invoicing hasn't, like you said, hasn't gone out yet. So,
What are you invoicing, do you know?
It's similar to last year. It was, their reservations were pretty much the same.
That was.
Like in the realm of, like in the realm of at least 10,000 hours.
Yes, Lynn?
Can I ask a question for all of you in my memory? Did we talk about the idea of $2 for a field that was used and like a reduced $1 for a field that was reserved and unused? Did we talk about that?
No, I don't.
I don't
I
remember
don't
talking about that
believe
last
so,
year.
but
Yeah.
okay.
I thought I read that there was another community nearby that had kind of a solution where they worked with that, where it was just what they used, or something like that. I can't remember what that was, but just looking for other ideas
Right.
than our approach. Because typically, this all developed in that the village really didn't manage the parks. The schools managed the parks. And so the soccer being the large elephant, really drove a lot of that and worked it together. And they were always friendly, trying to move around, but they're just a large mass to try to figure out how do we get in place
Absolutely.
with everywhere else. And the fact that
Right.
we do have fields that do become unplayable, so how do you adapt to that? So they've kind of driven it, and think they've been friendly and done a good job. This changeover where the village is now taking better control, managing some of the fields and doing a lot of the work for them, where in the past it was all done based on the organization. So,
Absolutely.
so I think we keep looking for a better avenue to do this, to find out what they're using and allowing more of our residents to actually use their spaces when there isn't a reservation, without having a lot of burden as well with moving around. When something happens, that's a lot of communication that comes back and forth. But, I think that's an avenue we look at to try to accommodate that.
I was gonna say, I think another point we brought up last year too, and maybe it was even before Eric was on board, but just hopefully there are less of these fields that are kind of a big mud pit, as they are being
Right.
maintained better and grass is established and things. So maybe that justification of we need to overbook because half the fields aren't playable. We've also had a couple pretty dry years compared to what we've had in the past. But it's on like a decade cycle, right? So we're due for some wet years. So it's not like it's never going to happen again. But I think, again, they've been very open to exploring solutions, want to have it be affordable, but also, I know last year too, we talked about, well, why don't you just book for what your preferred fields would be? And then if there is a problem, you can contact Leanne or Eric or whatever and say, hey, this doesn't look good, we're gonna pivot to this other park, it's likely not booked.
Right.
I think it was just more that those calls are often made pretty late in the day, maybe there's practice at 4 p.m. and they're out there at 3:30, and, is that, again, like, is it gonna create more work for staff to kind of switch up some of those things, or, are they gonna have to end up turning it up kind of after the fact anyway, because they have to make a game time call, is this playable or not? Just the practicality of switching and notifying families, hey, we're moving to this whole other field. So a lot of moving parts with this one.
Absolutely.
And likewise, they've been conscious about that because they don't want to use that
Right.
field because they could go ahead and use it, but it'll make it a mess. And then it's not just for that night, it becomes for an extended period of time. So let's keep looking at how to do that.
Okay.
Still like the idea of that,
Yeah.
What they use.
Absolutely.
And
Okay.
that way, it allows us to, the whole intention of the $2 was a migration from nothing to something. So let's migrate into what's going to be most effective to keeping a balance of it, and likewise making sure it's cost effective, because we really don't want kids not to have the ability to participate in the sport due to
Absolutely.
financial. Yes, Lynn?
I agree with you, Mark. I do think that looking at options that pushes a little bit, I think we've been very agreeable and sort of allowing this. And if we're not seeing those reservations come down, meaning that we're not seeing them scope that in a little
I
bit.
hear what you're saying.
I think putting a little pressure to say, because I mean, it's interesting because I remember when we had this discussion last time, we talked a lot about the accessibility of the parks, making sure that everyone would be able to use it. And I didn't necessarily think about Eric's team, that regardless of whether we're having someone else use it, if we're reserving it, we're in some ways preparing for that. If they're striping it, that's great. But your team is, aware of those reservations. And so I do want to see if we can get those to come into scope a little bit better if we're not seeing that happen.
Absolutely.
Nico?
Firstly, I agree with Lynn. I think it's kind of unacceptable to have just soccer be our one big exception. I really don't think that's fair to the other sports organizations. The second point that I'd just like to remind everyone of is all the sports organizations have meetings where they get together and discuss who gets what in which hours. Just something that I'd like to remind everyone of that wasn't mentioned before.
Very good point. Excellent. Very good.
All right, should we go to part
Next
3?
one.
Okay, so just ever since I've been hired, I've never billed Friends of Oregon Pickleball. I mean, others will come in and pay for courts and whatnot, but FOOP, as they are called, they have community open play, and they've always had that reservation in exchange for their funding of capital projects. So 2 years ago, I forgot what it was, but last year it was the sunshade, like a $17,000 sunshade in exchange for, a lot of hours on the pickleball court. But going forward, I just wanted to revisit that idea just because I was told this is how it works, and I don't know the why, I don't know the how. So I think just reopening it would be great, as well as, we're some of those projects aren't really coming down the pipeline anymore. So, do we say, hey, here's the bill for this $20,000 thing, or you know what I mean? I'm trying to find a way to, have a clear cut, okay, the courts need repairing, the village is responsible for that, that sort of thing. Because I think there's also sort of this gray area of who's responsible for what, and yeah, I think we all would love to know the
Would that
answer
fall
to
into
that.
a sanctioning type of thing as well? Something?
I mean, it could. Yeah, I mean, it could. Absolutely.
Yes.
A couple other points just of history to add in here. I think probably the first contribution by FOOP, I think before they were maybe even FOOP, was during the JC Community Park design. Pickleball was a pretty late add to that design, and so there happened to be a space up near the restrooms off Perry Parkway where that would be able to fit in. Kind of came again after all of the park budgets and things were set in place for a long time. So there was some fundraising done by members of FOOP, and there's some plaques out there for people that have donated. They also did a tourism commission request for, can't remember how much, maybe $5,000 or $10,000 for the pickleball courts. The village also made a request to tourism commission for JC Community Park as well. I think that was $20,000. But so that was some of the initial investment to actually get the pickleball courts constructed. But yeah, I know there was the canopy and some other improvements that have been added by the members over time. I also know that, correct me if I'm wrong here, but has FOOP organized some, not just community open play, but has there been a tournament that they've been associated with?
Correct. Only one that I'm aware of this past year.
Okay. So there wasn't any special fee paid for that time reserved, and I think there was a registration fee for the tournament for people who participated. The village didn't see anything from that.
Good point.
Sorry, can I just
Go,
make
Lauren.
one more mention, and I'll try to make it quick. One thing to keep in mind too is that when these sports organizations are paying reservation fees, those fees are used to offset the operating budget, so like Eric's time and expenses. When you're doing it on a capital basis, it's not really offsetting that operations. And that's the area of the budget that, as we all learned over the last year, we really struggle with. It also doesn't, it's very focused on those particular areas, whereas soccer, baseball, they're all kind of pitching into the maintenance of all the parks in contributing that way. So just something to keep in mind.
Andy?
Do you know how many hours they use?
Quite a few, because it's 7 days a week, 8 to 10 in the mornings, and then 5 evenings a week. I believe 3 hours, like 5 to dusk. So it's quite a bit.
Yeah, but if we were charging them $2 an hour, I mean, it would be nowhere near what, their fundraisers. I mean, I'm sitting not really on the fence. I'm just trying to understand and come at this a different way. Excuse me. I mean, it's when you fundraise for something. I mean, you feel like you have ownership in it, even though it's a village entity. So it's hard. I mean, I'm really glad that organizations fundraise for things because that's how pickleball got included in phase one. Yeah, without their advocacy, it wouldn't have been in there. I like seeing it be used, but I'm also on the point of you should pay for what you're using. I mean, if you want to have the courts reserved, for that, maybe if they're doing fundraising and doing some of these capital projects, then it's a deal like soccer where it's a reduced rate or something.
Okay.
But at least, to me, there is a cost to that. I mean, I'm going to go with baseball in the batting cage. I'll circle back to that at some point when we're done with pickleball. But it's one of those things where it's like, well, look what we did for the park. We got this. Why should we have to pay? I mean, that
Right.
you're going to get pushback on that, and and really without them fundraising for some of these projects, they wouldn't happen. So I mean, that's where I'm kind of in the middle, but I'm really leaning more towards the you are reserving this year. Even though it is community play,
Right.
I may want to go play pickleball, but I may not want to go play with the community
Right.
and kind of do it on my own, but I understand, that it's there too. So I think there should be some cost incurred, by the organization. I just don't know what that would be.
Any other comments? Nico?
Question: does the organization have like a steady source of income or something?
I don't believe so. I think they rely on private donors and
Okay.
their fundraisers.
Yeah. Okay. It just seems a little hard to tax an organization that doesn't have a steady flow of income. I'm sure something could be made to work though.
I mean, to that point though, if I wanted to get a group together to go play, whatever and reserve it, even if I wasn't charging people for it, I would still be reserving it and be expected to pay
Correct.
something.
Yeah, I mean, if they even had the jar that they just threw the money in.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't know what that would look like.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay.
I generally get a feeling that I'm in favor of, looking at it and see what we can do.
Absolutely.
Can I jump to the baseball thing quick?
Certainly.
Go for it.
I mean, so Eric, you said, the batting cage is going in, and obviously, the village has a cost. Public Works is doing the labor on some of that, but a lot of the materials and everything else have been, donated and fundraised for by baseball. So as we see some of these things, what's going to stop baseball from coming in and go, well, hey, we just did all this stuff for this batting cage. Why should we have to pay fees
That's
this
true.
next year, the next, how many years? I mean, it's.
That's very
I
true.
mean, a batting cage is very specific because it's going to benefit a very small subset of people that use parks in Oregon altogether. But it's kind of along the same line.
That's very true. That's a good point.
There's some precedents to set there. Capital
Absolutely.
improvements and operational.
Or
budget.
give them a year free and then just say, next year,
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's obviously some way to look at it. It's
Right.
just,
Absolutely.
I don't think that sitting on this side of the desk we would have to necessarily figure that out. But I mean, here's some feedback on kind of where we're at.
Absolutely. Okay.
Does that help out?
It does, yes. I will come back in October with some different scenarios and specific information, and we will revisit all three parts.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Let's see, so then we are in 7B, correct? Possible recommendation to the village board for temporary closure of J.C. Community Park West East parking lot. That was kind of tough for me to
That is-
follow.
I
That's a
did
great
put that in there on
descriptor.
purpose.
Yeah.
I almost got the map out.
So
Okay. But, yes.
Thank you for working your way through that, Mark. That made me very happy. Um, This is a request that was brought to staff by the soccer club. And they were actually here last month. We had originally talked about bringing it, and I just didn't get it on the agenda. So they had planned to attend and support. But for this year's Fall Fury tournament, the tournament is going to be centered and I think completely played here in Oregon. And the club had requested that we allow them to, during that tournament, essentially shut off the eastern parking lot by the pickleball area to vehicular traffic. So of course, pedestrians, cyclists still welcome to go through there, but let them use that as more of a staging area, use it for kind of food vehicles, set aside an area that emergency services could get back into the park. And we kind of wondered whether this was more of a staff approval thing or a board approval thing, but it is a major ask, and so we wanted to bring it to the park board to consider whether this is something that you guys would be supportive of. As staff, we think that this could work, but ultimately the decision kind of is with you guys on whether to move forward with this or not.
Okay, comments from the park board? Judy?
I'm okay with it. It's just that make sure pickleball knows that it's gonna be closed.
Sure.
And the other organizations know too. But, yeah, I mean, for security and safety and everything.
Others, eh?
Go ahead.
Andy?
Yeah, along those same lines, my only concern, well, first of all, are they using the concession stand?
They are,
For
and the
Fall Fury?
shelter.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Because I would want them to be utilizing some of our facilities as well, which I'm sure they are, so that's great. I'm a little nervous about the neighbors in the neighborhood, because if without that parking lot, parking is gonna just go down Perry and then hit those side streets, which have already endured, I'm sure, quite a bit of traffic with Oak Street being closed and lots of ripping up of things over the last couple of years. And so I think just getting communication out to them and letting them know that this is the plan. This is a weekend in September, so I want people to be able to get in and out of their driveways and feel like there aren't people walking through their yards and things like that. So if we can put it on social media, do a e-notify or something to just sort of let people know that there's going to be a lot of increased traffic there, I think would be reasonable for those folks.
Is there anything going on with hockey? Cause they got that nice big parking lot.
Yes, they do.
They do, and
They actually have two.
yeah, and I don't know, but they have been very, very helpful and cooperative this summer with all of our wastewater treatment plant projects and everything. We've been pretty close communication, and they've been great to work with. So we could certainly reach out to them and see
Make
if
sure they don't have anything going on
Yep.
that weekend.
Right.
Andy?
A couple things. So is soccer, are they gonna put smaller fields in the outfields inside the 4 ball fields?
Eric, you want to take that?
They're using the outfield at Stotts.
Yep.
As far as the smaller fields, they're just not big enough for them
Sure.
to put fields in.
Okay, so, they're gonna be primarily in Oregon, but not all necessarily at J.C. Community Park.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. You said Oak Street's gonna be open between Park Street and
Nygaard.
Nygaard. It's gonna be open enough to use and clear. So
Yep.
that means the west lots off of Oak Street are gonna be open.
Correct. Yep.
So there'll be more parking than there was in the previous years. What is street parking, or what limitations are there for street parking along Perry? Because once those parking lots off Oak Street opened up, a whole bunch of pesky no parking signs littered the side of Oak Street, which I understand, but also like what does the street parking look like? I know that, like Judy said, there's, parking the big lots across the street, and also just kind of knowing what's happening. I mean, the amount of cars that you can put in the east lot off of Perry, I mean, I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal. It'd be different if you were closing all three of them off of Oak Street. But if the fields, I mean, knowing how people work, if they can't park right next to where they're going, they might not be happy, but.
So we did face something similar when baseball held their Summerfest tournament. And I know that they had also worked with the school district. I'm guessing that soccer will work with the school district as well to use those parking lots, because I'm sure they're gonna be using any fields that they can over there as well. And I think that worked fairly well. I believe Perry is no parking on one side of the street, but parking is allowed on the other. And I believe it is the west side that it is permitted on.
Sure. So I guess maybe some temporary signs just of increased pedestrian traffic, if more people are sitting on there. I mean, overall, I'm in favor of it, but it's just going through just some concerns.
What weekend is that again?
It's the 26th, which is a Friday, through the 28th, which is a Sunday.
I'm in favor of it, just being at these tournaments in the past and just watching that parking lot and the traffic that goes in and out of it. It's a blind, oftentimes coming out of it. And so people are coming along that road, and they're paying attention to whether baseballs are flying or something else. And so it does get a little hazardous. So I think it's a great idea to just close that off, get people into that place. Being at soccer tournaments, Redden and other places in Wisconsin, I've walked a long ways in order to get to the fields. And then you forgot something and you had to go back. So I do think we have sufficient areas. I'm not counting the numbers of parking spots and such, but I think it's a great thing to give it a try and allow everybody to gather over there. So, so why don't we take an action on that? Take a motion onto that? We have a motion? Judy, we have a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Andy. Any other discussions regard to it?
Do you have any buses coming in?
They have not informed us about any buses coming in, so I'm not sure.
Okay. Any other discussion? Lynn?
I will just lastly say, I'm really excited that they're bringing it all back to Oregon. Having Fall Fury be hosted by our soccer club in our village is quite nice.
Awesome. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Very good. So our next meeting is Tuesday, October 14th, and then we also move into November 11th, Tuesday, November 11th. So if those dates still look good from your calendars right now, we'll hold to them. Does that sound good for thus far?
Yeah.
Just a reminder, I said this at Planning Commission last week too, but we do appreciate, thank you for everyone when you do let us know that you're going to be out of town. Obviously, we've had to cancel a couple times for quorum this year, so if you do know if you have a conflict, just let us know in as far advance as possible to Peggy or a staff member, and we'll make sure to get that to Peggy so we can keep a count of how many folks will be attending.
Excellent, great point. So item 8, any items in future meeting assignments? I do think that haven't had any particular assignments. I think it's still always good to reach out and find a park that you haven't seen before and share any experiences you have with that. Still remember distinctly when we ended up having the snowflake, how a mother and a child were out there in the swings and just said, "This is great, I've never been to this park before." So in the middle of winter, it was a lot of fun. So keep seeking out a park that you may not be familiar with so that if we ever get quizzed, you know what the name is relative to the spot and overall. So any other announcements? And I'm going to give a chance for everybody else to have a comment, but I also would like Matt, if he's willing to offer up a little bit of his background and such that I could share with us as an introduction.
Certainly. No, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. I've been living in Oregon for about 18 months now. My wife and I moved back to the Midwest. I'm from Illinois. She's from Madison originally, and we didn't want to go back to Madison, so we moved to Oregon. And no, I'm just glad to be here. I work for the federal government. I have for my entire career, including the military, and I just want to serve. And I'll tell you, this has been an enlightening meeting as a First Nation meeting. Look, we've got twin 5-year-olds at home, right? So
Oh,
we use a
wow.
lot of the parks.
Yeah.
And I apologize to the room and anybody on the screen if we tear them up a little bit too much. But no, it's a great place and great park system, and a lot of work obviously goes into it by a lot of folks. So that's what I want to say by introduction is thank you all for what you're doing because it's a great community and it's a lot of it is because of the parks. So
Welcome, appreciate it. Judy, you have any comments?
Not tonight, thank you.
All right, Nate?
No comments.
No, Lynn?
Nothing by me?
Andy?
Nope.
All right, very good. Then we'll call for an adjournment.
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you, Andy. Second by Judy. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Very good.
Laughing at-
Thank you all.
Oh, you're laughing
Have a
at
great one.
Thank you.